All right, let me know if you guys can hear me in the chat room. Let me know in the chat room if you can hear the sound of my voice. I'm sorry we have to go through this every time, but I'm very paranoid about this. Okay. Ever since I did a live stream on my other channel where I talked for like 20 minutes, half an hour before realizing that no one could hear me because the sound was off. I'm always paranoid about that, but okay. Now it ends. Welcome everyone to the Fallout discussion for the final episode of Game of Thrones. Love it or hate it, and I know a lot of people started to hate it this season. It's done. Wow. It's hard to know where to begin with this. As usual, I had to rush to jot down all my thoughts, and I'm probably forgetting a lot of really important stuff here, but this is just my raw initial impressions. I think if we're only taking continuity from the last episode to now into account, so if we're only thinking about the last two episodes, so the 5th and 6th episode of this season, if we're only thinking about those two episodes and what happened in those two, so only the continuity of those two, then I think this was a brilliant episode. Now, if we're taking the entire series into account, that opinion will surely change. But I think in terms of whatever effort could have been made to right the ship at the 11th hour, as it was hauling ass towards the biggest iceberg you could imagine, I think they did the best they could with the episode under the circumstances. Like, considering all the shit that got thrown at the wall last week. So I think they took the shitstorm they had on their hands, and I think they crafted, I think they did the best that could be done with what they had left. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone's going to be happy with this. I suspect people will be pissed off. And I'm not saying the episode was perfect. Well, I'll start with the good things, I guess. Production design, amazing. They spend several minutes just walking through King's Landing, or what's left of King's Landing, and I don't know how many millions of dollars they must have spent on this, but it's a brilliant piece of work. I mean, they probably got the Emmy for production design in the bag. Wait, did they do production design Emmys? I don't know. But it's really is amazing. Direction, top notch. And once again, this is another episode that's great at just building suspense. In this case, it was just a very long, if tense, build-up to Jon confronting Daenerys and then killing her. Yes, that's what the whole thing is building up to. It's very slow and methodical, but I think in this case it should have been. Again, great writing. There were some terrific monologues here. Peter Dinklage killed it. Of course, he always kills it, but they gave him some great stuff in this episode. Especially the scene with him and Jon. A great scene there. Individually, there are a lot of great scenes. Again, Sam and Jon and Tyrion finding Jaime and Cersei. Jon and Daenerys, another great scene. Again, if you're only taking the last two episodes into account, and not considering the way Daenerys' character arc was kind of botched, shall we say. A lot of characters get endings that feel appropriate. They're not all happy endings. A lot of them are. Some of them are sad. Some of them are happy. I think most of them feel right. I think Sam is the Grand Maester now. That was cool. Brienne, Captain of the Golden Cloaks. Okay, cool. Podrick's a knight. Great. Sansa, Queen of the North. I like that. Tyrion is back as Hand of the King. I don't know if he's too happy about that, but I think it makes sense. He was a good Hand of the King. Not so great a Hand of Daenerys' hand of the queen. I think he regrets a lot of the mistakes he made in that regard. But he was a good hand of the king back in the early seasons. And Jon is back at the Wall, back where he started, and he got to, Ghost is there, and he got to pet Ghost finally, because it was kind of bullshit that he didn't get to pet Ghost when they parted ways at Winterfell, but he got to pet Ghost there, so that was cool. So Angry Joe should be pleased with that. I finally got to pet the puppy. That's nice. And the series ends how it began, with the Night's Watch going beyond the Wall, and that's very poignant. So that kind of bookends the series. I like that. The bad things. Pacing wise, it's good up until Jon and Daenerys meet in the throne room. After Daenerys dies, the pacing really slows down. Like, I'm starting to wonder, like, what else is there? Like, I don't know. It's just after that, it's just I started looking at the clock. It's like, how much more time is there? I mean, there's like 20, it's like 15, 20 minutes left. Like, what else can I do here? It really slowed down at that point. As far as Bran becoming king, the reasoning, or at least the reasoning that Tyrion puts forth, sort of makes sense. I just wish we hadn't had to spend so much time with Bran doing nothing to get him to this point. I mean, they had like nothing for Bran to do this season. Like nothing. I mean, he's the one who tells. No, actually, Sam told Jon about the secret. I mean, the last useful thing Bran did was confirm Jon's parentage with Sam, but Sam's the one who tells Jon. So there was like nothing for Bran to do this entire season. He was bait for the Night King. That's it. And then they just make him king at the end. I mean, I'll accept it story wise, but you couldn't find something for Bran to do in the meantime. I mean, a lot of people, myself included, were starting to wonder why the hell Bran was still there. And now we've got our answer, but I mean, it's like they kind of forgot about him for a while. Now, as far as Dany is concerned, a lot of people are just not going to be on board with this, and I get it, believe me. I think overall, this was, again, just this episode. Not like this, not the whole season, not the whole series, just this episode. I think this was what we saw here was the brilliant, like the final brilliant execution of a bad idea that was terribly executed last week. Like I said, there was no way to save this whole thing completely, but they took what happened last week, and I think they played a bad hand as well as they possibly could here. Dany, she thinks she's a liberator, but she's talking like a tyrant. You say, we freed the people of King's Landing. No, you didn't. You killed them all. And now she's going to do the same thing with the rest of the world. She's speaking like she's become the Mad Queen. She's become Queen of the Ashes. And the irony apparently was lost on her when she walked into the throne room. And it's just like that future vision dream thing that she had, I think, in season 2. And apparently it wasn't, when she had that dream, it wasn't the Iron Throne covered with snow, it was covered with ash. So she became Queen of the Ashes, and it doesn't even occur to her. So love it or hate it, she is the Mad Queen now. She's out of her fucking mind. And I'm not. And the problem is, it wasn't an organic journey. You could have made it an organic journey, but I mean, this whole thing happened over like the last 3 episodes. And I've heard the argument that the building, the seeds were planted the whole time, and when she's always had the ruthless streak. We've seen her kill people before. We saw her kill her enemies before. We saw her kill people who defied her before. We saw her kill bad people before. I mean, Dany always had uh, a sense of justice and morality. We saw her kill criminals and warlords and rapists and slavers. But at her core, she always seemed. I mean, she talked tough at times, but I mean, she always felt like a good person. And then and then just because of what happened to her in like the last 3 episodes, we're meant to think that she's abandoned her entire moral compass and just become a dictator. And I see what they were going for. I just don't buy it. If this was Dany's ultimate destination, we should have seen hints of the darkness inside her a lot earlier than like 3 episodes ago. I guess there were hints of it when she executed the Tarleys, but again, I mean, they defied her. They wouldn't bend the knee. I mean, there was a hint, and I guess I got it, but it was still they were still subtle at that point because technically they were enemies. Here, she's killing. I mean, she massacred an entire city of innocent people, including an army that had surrendered. And it's just the journey just wasn't as organic as I think the writers thought it was. Even though, I mean, they tried like hell to justify it, though, with that Tyrion monologue, the scene with Tyrion and Jon in the cell. They tried like hell to justify it, and credit to the writing, it almost worked. It almost worked. That's a credit to Peter Dinklage selling the hell out of it, and that was a really well-written scene. Now, Dany's death, again, well-written scene, if we're not taking the continuity of the whole series into account. Again, I'm just talking about the last 2 episodes here. It's a great scene, although people are going to be very split on this. Some will call it underwhelming. Some will call it some will think this is what was called for under the circumstances. For me, the scene worked, but if you think it was just she goes out with a whimper instead of a bang, believe me, I get it. And aside from that, it's like there's some little details that I thought were strange. Like that scene at the end of the episode last week where Arya spends like 2 minutes just to being happy to see a horse and then riding away. I'm not sure what that was meant to signify because I mean this week she's back in the city, and I don't know what the horse was supposed to mean. It's like that doesn't come up again, so I'm not sure what that was about. Also, why was Daenerys' army still so big? It seemed like there were a hell of a lot of Unsullied and Dothraki still there, and I was under the impression that most of them died at Winterfell. Her army is still pretty fucking big, and I'm not sure where all those extra soldiers came from. And also, Drogon, when Drogon finds Jon and Daenerys' body, he doesn't do anything. Okay, I guess I understand. I guess he accepted Jon. I guess that's what the scene was supposed to signify when Jon was entering the castle and Drogon kind of rises out of that ash and lets him pass. I guess that was meant to signify that he accepts Jon as a Targaryen or something. But Jon just murdered his quote unquote mother, and Drogon's got nothing to do with it. Drogon doesn't care. Drogon burns the Iron Throne. Okay, it's a cool visual, but I thought he was going to try to burn Jon, which I guess you can't do because we found out in season 1 that Jon does burn. He's not immune to fire like Dany is, but I thought that was kind of what they were going for there. But hey, he just melts the Iron Throne and takes off. Strange. Again, it was cool, but it was just odd. And afterward, how does everyone know that Jon killed Dany? Because her body's gone, the evidence is gone. Literally, the only person who knows what happened in there was Jon. So the only explanation is that Jon just told everyone the truth, which, come to think of it, is probably exactly what Jon would do. because he's weird like that. But still, I mean, he could have just said, "Oh yeah, there was a Lannister soldier hiding in the throne room, and he got the jump on Dany, and that was it. He killed him." And then Drogon just, Drogon showed up and melted him alive, and the throne got melted too. And Drogon took off with Dany's body, and yeah, I saw the whole thing, and I was an eyewitness, and no one else was there. It's just me, so you got to take my word for it. It would be that easy. No, I guess John just told the truth. It's the only explanation. And again, I guess that is something that John would do, but it's dude, learn how to lie, dude. Seriously. And overall thoughts. I guess this kind of felt like an apology for the rest of the season. In spite of all the ways that they dropped the ball on this final season creatively, and just certain characters not acting in character, or certain character arcs being botched, or not ending the way you'd think they should, or not getting like the ending that's appropriate for them. This felt like a kind of like a last minute writing of the ship, like it's an imperfect ending considering all the problems with the season prior to this, but it felt poignant. The wheel, like Dany always said, I'm not gonna stop the wheel or whatever. I'm gonna break the wheel, and well, the wheel is broken. The Iron Throne is gone. There's no more monarchy, really. From now on, the king or queen will be chosen by the people. And by the way, I love that the Sam basically proposed an election, and everybody laughed everybody laughed their asses off. I think there was a little bit of political commentary there. That was funny. But yeah, the wheel is broken. So from now on, the people will, like the lords of the 7 kingdoms, or 6 kingdoms now, will choose their own ruler. So, in a way, Dany did what she promised. Because of her, the wheel is broken. And yeah, poor Jon. He's back beyond the wall again. It's definitely it's a very bittersweet ending, but I think that's the kind of ending I always expected. And expecting a happy ending was that was never going to happen. That was never in the cards. But under the circumstances, and given what they had to work with in this final episode, it felt right. Now, taking the entire series into account, again, if we're thinking about continuity from the entire series, that's when that water gets a lot murkier. So I guess you could say that my feelings on this last episode are complicated, but under the circumstances, I think it was a great ending. But again, that's only taken into account like the continuity of the last couple episodes, and I'm starting to go around in circles here, but a lot of complicated feelings. A lot of characters that were alive at the end that you really wouldn't have expected. Like Grey Worm, I can't believe Grey Worm is still alive. Brienne still alive. Did not expect that. Yeah, Bronn. We really kept Bronn alive all this time just so he could become Lord of Highgarden and Master of Coin, and argue that they should rebuild all the brothels before the ships. That's what we were keeping Bronn alive this whole time for. Really? Wow. Okay. Still a pretty big body count, but not as big as I was expecting. That was strange. So yeah, a lot of complicated feelings. And in spite of the way season 8 really went off the rails, I I still love Game of Thrones. I mean, shows like this just don't come around. I mean, this was like this was a once in a lifetime show. Um, I guess we got to find a new TV obsession now. I don't know where it's going to come from because this is still going to be hard to top. And in spite of like all the problems that they had as they crossed the finish line, I mean, this is still going to be up there for like with like all like one as one of the all time great TV shows. I think. Sorry. Sorry, my throat's a little messed up. I was recording the new Supergirl review for several hours yesterday. Ran into audio problems again. I kind of had to improvise something, and I think I found something that worked, but it takes a long time to get through one of those. And I had to re-record a couple things today, but audio editing's almost done, so I can probably start cutting the video together tomorrow. So I'm aiming for that. I'm going to try to get that one finished by Saturday or Sunday. Anywho, let's see. Let's see, Jacob Walton. If you had to write an ending to this show, how would you have ended it? How would I have ended it? I don't know. This kind of feels like something I would have done. I think Danny probably. Excuse me. I think Danny had to die after what she did. So I had it in my head. I wrote this on Twitter. I said I would have Danny had to die, probably executed by John. So I pretty much had that right. And I had it that John would have destroyed the Iron Throne, said it was Drogon, and then John would have just headed north. John would have headed out into the wild beyond the wall with the free folk. And that kind of happened, except he's with the Night's Watch. I don't know why we still need a Night's Watch now. I guess it's kind of like a glorified penal colony or something, where the lords of the Six Kingdoms will send their prisoners. But I basically had the same thing, except some of the details were different. Jon Snow killing Dany, someone willing to take the fall for her assassination, then Jon becomes king. He was meant to be. Also, Westeros was this close to creating democracy. It was hilarious. Yeah. Yeah, I can't help. They were definitely commenting on something. Benioff and Weiss were commenting on the political system where Sam basically suggests a democracy and gets shot down. God, that was boring, and they all lived happily ever after. Happily ever after? I'm not sure what show you were watching. At least he finally petted Ghost. Yeah. Yeah. The ending was good. Honestly, it was much better than I expected. Yeah, me too. I was kind of expecting a shit show, or at least dreading a shit show. It feels like like I said, this kind of felt like a last-minute apology for how they fucked things up in the last couple episodes. Okay. The ending was definitely better than expected, but can we say our expectations were high at this point? I don't think we could say that. Jon Snow, the man who was raised from the dead, became Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, and then became King of the North, and fight the army of the dead with the help of Daenerys' army. Yeah. Song of Ice and Fire, more like a series of unfortunate events for Jon Snow. Well, at least he's still alive. Okay. I'm not happy Daenerys is gone or the way it happened. On top of it, Sansa gets a happy ending after she helped push over the edge. The hell with that. She helped push Dany over the edge. I'm not sure how Dany helped push Daenerys over the edge. I think that would have happened regardless of what Sansa did. Okay, Sansa helped Jon's secret get out, but I think honestly, I think Daenerys would have she would have gone full blown Mad Queen regardless. Like you can't pin this one on Sansa. But everyone tells Jon he's the true heir to the throne, kills the Dragon Queen, only to end up back at the Night's Watch, basically making everything he's done pointless, getting him nowhere. Well, he saved the Seven Kingdoms from a tyrant. Let's not forget that part. Okay, Nerdaholics going out with a whimper, the dumbest ending ever. So not everyone happy with this. Like I said, this is going to split people. Show may have stumbled, but it was still a fantastic show. I need a hooker and some cocaine. Yeah, it did stumble on the final lap, but it's still one of the all-time greats for me. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find a show that was perfect all the way through. You really would. Those kind of shows are very rare. It was a good episode. Honestly, I'm satisfied with the fate of all the characters. Okay. Best moment was Drogon melting the throne. Yeah, that was cool. I'm not sure why Drogon didn't roast Jon. Cinematography was stellar. There were some amazing shots in this. Oh yeah, hell yeah. I think best shot for me was when was Daenerys' entrance when Drogon is in back of her and we see like the Drogon's wings and it kind of looks like Dany has dragon wings for a second there. That was gorgeous. That was a brilliantly shot episode. They could very well get best directing for a dramatic series at the Emmys. Let's see. Okay, perfect ending. All right. I agree that if you only take the continuity of the last two episodes into account, that was a good ending. The problem is we shouldn't have been in this situation to begin with. No, I agree. I agree. I mean, this was a damage control episode, to be sure. But in terms of damage control episodes, it was stellar. I only wish that a damage control episode had not been necessary. The fact that it was necessary really sucks. Love Tyrion's reaction to seeing his brother and sister dead. Yeah. You know, it doesn't it doesn't fix the fact that Jaime and Cersei went out that way of all ways. I still think that was bullshit. But Peter Dinklage, he killed it again. His reaction to seeing them like that was another great scene. Why did Bran refuse to be Lord of Winterfell but become king with only 4 episodes in between? I think he refused to be Lord of Winterfell because he knew that he was going to become king. I think he foresaw this. Let's see. I think Bran knew he was supposed to become king, so he turned down Winterfell because he was supposed to rise further, didn't lock himself into a lower position. Yeah, exactly. Full circle. They just wanted to keep it running for as long as they could, and they didn't have anything else to use. If there is any silver lining for me, this episode is that Sansa is queen in the north like I've wanted the whole season. Yeah, I think I like where Sansa ended up. And I know a lot of people haven't always liked Sansa. I always liked the character. I thought she got a lot of crap she didn't deserve. So I'm glad she wound up where she is. I like that. Let's see. Bran wasn't doing nothing. He was waiting. Waiting isn't nothing. Yeah, well, at the time it felt like nothing. That's the problem. The Lords laughing at the thought of democracy was great. Yeah, it really was. Let's see. All right. Maybe 4 hated it. Okay. Dragon burns the throne made the only sense. All right. All right. People definitely split in the chat room here. Some thought it was great. Some hated it. Yeah. Drogon burning the Iron Throne was a little cheesy. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, why would Drogon do that? Why would he know to do that? It was strange. Great visual, but strange. When she said she went to break the wheel, she meant all of Westeros. Well, apparently. And they gave Dany a Saruman speech, only to revert her back to Dany of old within 5 minutes was so jarring. Was she Dany of old at the end there? Didn't seem like it to me. It felt like a sitcom when they had their small council meeting. A little bit, but I laughed. So let's call it a good sitcom. Let's see. If they were going to have a king always burning the Iron Throne serves no purpose but spite. Well, let's be honest. That Iron Throne was fucking cursed, man. Like everyone who sat on the Iron Throne just ended really badly. Best to just get rid of the damn thing. She broke the wheel, but not as she thought. Yeah, exactly. So the Mad film theory, you could see the clues of where she would end, clues of when she would go turn mad. Haven't seen that. What did Drogon have against the throne? Did he comprehend what it meant to Dany? And if he's that intelligent, why didn't he munch on Jon for shanking his mommy? I assume he did comprehend it. And as for him not attacking Jon, that was left up to interpretation. Like I said, I think the scene where Drogon allowed Jon to pass meant that he accepted Jon as a Targaryen, but it's left very unclear. The turn to the Mad Queen was horribly executed, but I still think the hints were enough to build up to a Mad Queen moment, not genocide, but some kind of overly ruthless moment. Okay, I think you're probably in the minority on that one. I think there were clues, but they weren't. The clues weren't enough to justify a turn like this. Like, I mean, she did have a ruthless streak, but she was always killing her enemies, and her enemies were bad people, like criminals and rapists and slavers and warlords, and people who deserved what they got. And her journey from killing people who deserved their fate to killing a city full of innocent people, it happened in just like that. And it didn't, for me, it did not work. Thought they make it only 6 episodes to make it more epic, but now I'm sure they did it because something happened on the producer's side. It felt so rushed. Anybody knows what happened? It did feel rushed. It did. It felt like an ending to another season, not the entire show. Okay. It was a happy ending. Depending on how you look at it, I guess. Martin better fucking finish these last 2 books and fix all that mess left by D&D. I swear to God. Well, given the glacial pace George R.R. Martin writes with, you could be waiting a while. I mean, Winds of Winter, I don't know, we might see that before too long, but God only knows what a Dream of Spring is going to be, when we're going to see a Dream of Spring. Because he'll probably want to finish that Targaryen history book before that one. Because Fire and Blood was only part 1. And so they'll probably have another 700-page behemoth after Winds of Winter. And only then will he start Dream of Spring. And God knows how long that's going to take him to finish. She offered them 10-episode season, but D&D wanted only 6 episodes. It was their decision, not the producers. Yeah. So they could have had 10 episodes, and under the circumstances, they probably should have taken 10 episodes. Let's be honest, John told him. Yeah. He's straight. Yeah. This it's the only explanation. And that is something that John would have done. Because he's got too much Ned in him. John doesn't really know how to lie. He's always going to be he's going to be upfront and just tell the truth, even if it gets him in trouble. Real question is, when John told the truth, why didn't Grey Worm kill John on the spot? Excellent question. Everyone would have taken John's word about that scenario you described. Exactly. So if John had just learned how to lie, he wouldn't have. He could have just gone back to Winterfell. John and the Wildlings going back beyond the wall was a hint at another White Walker threat, or am I just in denial that they're gone forever? You're probably in denial. I mean, that one shot they had some greenery poking up through the snow at the end there. It was a blink and you miss it, but it was there. I think that was signifying that winter is over, and spring is coming now. So I saw no evidence that the White Walkers were still around. John is out to become king of the Wildlings. Well, it seemed like they were all following him at the end there, so who knows? Maybe. Jaime's character arc some thought, and him returning to Cersei isn't that far-fetched. Toxic relationships can be complicated and it's not so easily escaped. I guess, like in the context of the show, I think it sort of made sense. Even though it felt like it kind of felt like bullshit and not the ending I think anyone wanted for Jaime. Because I mean, the show did take a different turn from the books. It was I think in the books, I've only read the first 3, but I think in the books there's he's done a better job of kind of distancing himself and kind of divorcing himself emotionally from Cersei, as I've heard. Granted, I haven't read like the most recent books, but I guess in the show, the difference is that he never quite managed it. He just couldn't free himself from Cersei's web, and they were always going to be tied together for better or for worse. He saw in Brienne someone that he does not deserve, an example of something he could never be, and it drove him back to Cersei? Possibly. A crippled boy who has no experience at ruling is now king of the 6 kingdoms. Yeah, well, also Bran has the repository of all the knowledge of Westeros history in his brain. So if anyone would know how to not repeat the mistakes of the past, I guess it would be Bran. Just sad what they did to Bronn this season. What, making him Lord of Highgarden? The dude finally got his castle. I mean, sure, he was sidelined for most of the season, but he got what he wanted. Lords are going to decide who's going to be king. Isn't that what the Iron Throne always was? No, basically, the Iron Throne was like whoever conquers the kingdom sits on the Iron Throne, basically. That's what Robert did, and I guess that's what the Targaryens did before him. It's not bittersweet, it's a happy ending. Everyone we liked got rewarded. Everyone we hated got killed. Not sure how Jon got rewarded. And not sure how Jaime got rewarded. Worst ending of any show tonight. Of any show tonight? Well, how many other shows were ending tonight? How is that not a happy ending? Well, John got sentenced to the Night's Watch for life. Can never see his family again. That sucks for John. Real question is why didn't they institute this electing kings by the lords? Wasn't instituted right after Robert's rebellion if everyone was willing to do it? I think it just didn't occur to them. I mean that was how it would. I mean, it had always been a monarchy ruled by one king. I think the possibility of elected officials just is kind of a new thing to them. It hadn't. I don't think that had ever been considered before. They needed somebody like Sam to suggest such a thing, and to them it seems outlandish, as we saw. Okay. Man, I really need to get an air conditioner in here. Could have been better, but could have been worse. Yeah, it's kind of how I feel about it. Supergirl review or Death by Dragonfire? Tricky choice. Yeah, I'm working on it now. I'm gonna finish up the last of the audio editing tonight after I take a cold shower because it's really warm in here. That's what I'll be doing this week is cutting together the new Supergirl episode 11 review. I'm hoping to have that done by Saturday or Sunday. So John didn't want it. He wanted to be with the wild folk. John got what he wanted. Same for Sansa Brantirian in a way. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. You know, he didn't want the Iron Throne, sure. I think he would have been happy to go back to Winterfell, though. I don't think he's happy that he can never see Sansa, Arya, and Bran ever again, or Sam. Love the shot with the dragon's wings unfurling behind Dany. That was sick. Yeah, that was beautiful. That was a beautiful shot. Like, technically, the episode was fucking gorgeous. It's just, creatively is where people are going to have issues. Where did the last dragon take Dany's body, though? I'm not sure it really matters. I'd be back to the Targaryens' place of origin, wherever that was. I forget. Forget. John is not on the Night's Watch. He's the king beyond the wall. Yeah, he's the new Mance Raider, I guess. And Tormund did say that John has like the true North in him. Maybe he'll be content with that. Hopefully. They're not sending us their best prisoners. They need to rebuild the ice wall. Why? Why do they need to rebuild the wall? The White Walkers are gone. There's peace with the Free Folk. Is there a reason for the wall to exist anymore? Well, the terrible world culminating in a genocide by dragon is probably the wake-up call the lords and ladies needed to realize that the current system was finally unworkable. Yeah, pretty much. Okay. Are the Free Folk supposed to be men of the Night's Watch now? Because for some reason I don't think they'll take no wives and father no children. Yeah. I think they're honorary members of the Night's Watch. I mean, they were manning the wall for a while there. Yeah. No kids means there will be an epic war once the broken king dies. Give the kingdom some time to repopulate. Hence why brothels are important. Seriously expect a last war between Dany and John. Too many simple assassinations. Well, last war. If there was a last war, I mean, Dany probably would have won. I mean, she had the army. She had the dragon. I think it kind of had to be what it was. Is there an episode 7 next week? No, I think there's kind of like a post-show documentary or something like that next week. Is expecting a final war between Dany and Jon too. At the same time, an assassination taking out Dany totally fits with Game of Thrones. I thought it made sense just too quick. Okay. Wish Dany and Jon had more time to talk before Jon killed her. I think it was given appropriate time. Yeah. Will there be a new Iron Throne or not? Because Bran's always sitting anyway. Nah, I think the Iron Throne's done. He'll just sit up there in his wheelchair. D&D or hacks and managed to ruin years of buildup. Well, love him or hate him, and I mean they did create a great show for 6, arguably 7 seasons. I mean, granted, they had the source material to work with, but I mean, they still made a great show for a long time, even if the ending wasn't what a lot of people wanted. I mean, that takes talent. I mean, they didn't quite stick the landing, but they kept the ship going for quite a long time before that. I feel like Drogon realized the Iron Throne and Dany's lust for power was what killed her, and accepted that Jon had no choice but to kill her. That's a fair interpretation, I think. Just kind of wish it hadn't been left up to interpretation. With Jon being unable to father children, that means the Targaryen dynasty is finally truly dead. Yeah, because no man of the Night's Watch ever knocked someone up. Like, they never visited the brothel near Castle Black. Or they never... I mean, Mance Rayder was a member of the Night's Watch at one time. We meant to believe that he never, he never fucked any wildling women after he deserted. I mean, Jon took the oath once before. He swore to, take no wife, father, no children. It didn't stop him from fucking Ygritte a bunch of times. Just because she never got pregnant doesn't mean she couldn't have. I mean, it could still happen. Mentioned by Martin that it would be revealed why the seasons are so screwy on Planetos, that it was something magical, implying it's connected to the Night King. Oh, okay, so maybe now that the Night King is gone, the seasons would stop being so screwy? Oh, okay. Wasn't really clear, but I guess, they did have that greenery poking through the snow there at the end. It was very, very subtle. Did the White Walkers always bring the winter? If so, does that mean there are always going to be no more winters since the White Walkers are gone? No, I don't think so. I think the seasons would just pass normally from now on. People of King's Landing were not exactly innocent over the seasons. Remember, killing, torture, walks of shame. Yeah, true. I mean, they weren't all saints or anything, but there were still innocent people in there. Ugh. Bran is a sentient Google. He has access to everything that ever happened. Nobody is more qualified than him to rule. Yeah, I think in that sense, I mean, he's got access to the accumulated knowledge of the entire the entire world, basically. I mean, in a way, he's more qualified than anybody. I think they'll probably revert to normal length winters. The White Walker magic seemed to prolong them. That was my understanding anyway. Yeah, I think he'll probably make that more clear in the books. They had to very subtly imply it in the show. Any clue on what John is going to do now? I think he'll just be King Beyond the Wall, or something akin to King Beyond the Wall. Jamie was a bad guy. He deserved to die. John wants to be Beyond the Wall. It's the only thing he ever wanted, except Egret and Danny. Yeah, but Jamie's whole arc was about him becoming a better person. That's why it's so frustrating that he ended up back with Cersei at the end. Because Cersei was a huge part of the reason why he was perceived as a bad guy for so long. I think the tragedy is that Jamie had a chance of being a good guy, and he just didn't take it. John is in the Night's Watch. He's the Lord Commander again. He's allowed to go beyond the wall. And yeah, okay. Some of the wildlings are bad hombres. That wall needs to be rebuilt, and the free folk are going to pay for it. I don't know. We haven't seen any of the bad wildlings in a long time, though, like several seasons now. I was under the impression that we were kind of at peace with them now. There's no reason for a Night's Watch. The Night King is dead and the wall is down. It's pointless. Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure why it's still there. Night's Watch was non-existent when John arrived at Castle Black. Pretty much. I mean, it's just about all wildlings now. I thought Jenny stabbed John for a second there. Yeah, me too. It was well done, because it's for a minute there I wasn't sure who got stabbed. I think they deliberately filmed it that way. I have no idea why wildlings would want to go back beyond the wall. The wall is broken by an ice dragon. Well, it's their home. Like, the North is their home. If they're happy there, I can understand it. I mean, if it doesn't mean they have to stay there. I mean, they can go beyond. They can stay up in the North, or they can like go into Westeros whenever they want. Now it's not like they're trapped up there. The wall is still there because it's big and very difficult to take down. Well, if the seasons are reverting to normal now, it might be a lot easier. It could melt come summertime. Being on the watch, much of the adjustments of the free folk are fine. There are no more White Walkers. Bran is going to use his powers and invent a flying Iron Throne, and there will be Professor X of Westeros. Wouldn't that be something? Okay. I think we'll end it there, guys. I need a shower. And I gotta get an air conditioner, because I got a leather chair, and that is not going to work now that the weather is getting hot. So I'm gonna go take a cold shower. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and thanks for joining me on this discussion of Game of Thrones final season. I had a lot of fun doing this, and I'm going to try to do more live streams in the future, and I'm not sure what we'll talk about. As for what I'm up to, I'm working on the next Supergirl review right now. That's the next video, and I have ordered some equipment from Amazon that I'm hopefully going to improve the audio quality, so recording stuff won't take so long. And I've ordered some other stuff that'll allow me to, that if it works, will allow me to do things I haven't been able to do on the channel before. I'm not going to say what it is yet. I don't want to jinx anything, because I'm not sure if I'll get it to work. But if it does work, I should be able to make movie reviews a lot more easily. And so I won't have to spend like all day editing those with shots from the trailers and advertising and stuff. Because I like the way those turned out, but it was a lot of work for videos that kind of need to be made quickly and uploaded quickly. So those should all that stuff I ordered should come between the 20th and the 24th, between the 20th and the 24th, according to Amazon, because I opted for free shipping, which takes longer. So once that comes, assuming everything works the way I'm hoping it will, I'll be able to do a review of Godzilla, of Godzilla King of the Monsters. Um, I've got some stuff in mind that I want to do with that one that I've never done before. So fingers crossed that it all works out. In the meantime, get ready for the next Supergirl review because that's what I'm working on right now. I'll try to get that done for you as soon as I can. And yeah, thanks for joining me. I've had a lot of fun doing this, and maybe we can do it again for another show as soon as we find a new TV obsession. Maybe the His Dark Materials show. That actually looks pretty interesting. It's a trailer for it. It looks better than the Nicole Kidman movie version anyway. So maybe we'll do it when that show comes out. Who knows? So thanks for joining me, guys, and I'll talk to you soon. See you later.